Hi there, welcome to this episode of the MakerKit podcast. Today we chat with Sebastian Pedavoli. He's a SaaS founder from Australia who used MakerKit to build and launch Watchthis page. There is so much to learn from Sebastian, especially I enjoyed learning how he leverages Reddit and local communities to understand, validate and market his products. Without further ado, let's dive in. Today I'm joined by Sebastian Pedavoli, the CPO at Sked Social and the founder of Watchthis page, which is a SaaS built on MakerKit. Hi Sebastian, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meeting you, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Would you like to introduce a little bit yourself, what you've done in the past and what you're currently working on?
Yeah, absolutely. I started working in tech in 2005, working on mostly website applications. Then after a few years, I branched out on my own, started a creative agency. And then around the 2013, 2014 period, I founded a tech company with a friend of mine. And we actually ran that for 10 years and wrapped it up at the end of 2022. Was in the social media space, had a couple of big customers. Biggest customer was Twitter. So we did a lot of work sort of in that space as well, in the social media space. Thus my transition now into Chief Product Officer at Sked Social. Then discovering MakerKit. It was a great transition for me. I work in product. I have a product brain. I've been working in tech for a really long time. And it was a way of actually being able to have an idea and get it to market really quickly. And the MakerKit project that I'm working on now, Watchthis, that was an idea that had been bubbling around a little bit amongst some friends about how I take this idea and get it to market quite quickly. And then I'm also working on a second project, which is Component, which is a cycling app. And that's probably a great sort of example back and forth because I came up with that idea in 2021 and I spent some time in 2023 building it. The time to market when you're rolling something from scratch yourself while you're also working full time versus building something on top of MakerKit and the speed you can actually get to market has been profound. So yeah, been working in tech for quite a while. I get the luxury and the privilege to be able to work in a product role, work with customers and marketing teams. And then in my spare time, I get the ability to design, dev and launch products solo as well, which is fantastic.
So basically you were in design, then you transitioned to product. Right now, you're also building your own apps, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did AI play a role into this transition? Right now, product people like you are also empowered to build products from scratch or using a framework like MakerKit or others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you step back and you look that AI has enabled some capabilities that haven't existed before from a product perspective, they've sped up my development as well. So my ability to actually build and just dev faster. I had a 10-year break from writing code. When I founded the company, I essentially stopped writing code. I had a team of engineers. I didn't need to write code. So when I was jumping back into it, there was a fairly steep learning curve of getting myself back up to speed. And even now I'm launching the mobile app using the Expo kit. But, that is a new area for me as well. So to be able to leverage AI, and I think it's interesting to see it influencing all different aspects, even in my day job, to see how AI is then influencing and sort of augmenting how people work at scale as well.
I have a feeling that AI is helping designers and product people more than it is helping developers sometimes, because a lot of developers are very resistant to the change. It's very difficult to adapt to this new mindset. A lot of people are still reluctant, but designers and product people, now that they are so empowered by AI, they are diving in a way that there's a lot of developers are not. Now using AI probably in the past year, you can really build but also learn at a faster rate than before. How did you use MakerKit to build your app?
So, and I think that this is sort of the product foundations I'm leaning on, is that I've had an idea, I can see a problem in the market. How do I leverage MakerKit to be able to test that idea? Because essentially, as a product person, I want to be able to validate an idea as quickly as possible. Even scrolling through and reading the Discord of people launching products using MakerKit, you can see some of them have launched 3, 4, 5, like they're onto their 5th leveraging MakerKit. And it's that, how do you get to market? How do you get to market as quickly as possible to validate an idea? And AI is helping you both from a product perspective, synthesize information. Like if you're out there and you're researching, how do I find my market? Maybe I'm on Gummy Search researching and validating an idea, and I can see a problem space, and then I'm bringing that into MakerKit. I'm like, okay, how do I get this to market? And the beauty of MakerKit is that a lot of time of actually launching a business and launching an idea is actually the pieces around the edges. It's not your IP in the middle. The IP is sometimes the smallest part of actually launching a company. With MakerKit though, that piece and that effort is actually removed from you. The core of it is there to be able to launch an idea or business, the mechanics of it, and then to be able to drop your IP in there quite quickly, validate that idea, iterate on it really quickly, and figure out, is it working? Is it the right idea? Move on to the next one, or is it double down on it and actually get some success from it?
I find it pretty incredible that non-developers are able to ship full products in a matter of weeks with both the power of AI and boilerplates like MakerKit. Just to touch a little bit on AI used by non-developers, what do you think of products such as Bolt or Lovable that can basically create a SaaS in a bunch of prompts rather than using a boilerplate which has all the foundations required, which are not generated by AI, but it does probably 40-50% of the code required to build a SaaS?
Yeah, I think I'm in this little bit of a mode of wait and see that some of these tools that can spin up a SaaS product from nothing, I think is interesting. I guess one of the challenges that I see at the moment is that the ability for people to launch SaaS products quite quickly is bringing a huge number of products to market. And then you have the problem of how do you filter down and find the good products from all of this? But I guess a little bit of the challenge is that a lot of the tools that are being launched are also AI wrappers in themselves, which I think is a little bit of a challenge. I think that it'll figure itself out. And I think that there'll be a place for the products that are built from scratch. Someone has an idea, great. I have no coding ability, but I have an idea. Great, launch it, run it, and build a business out of it, and that will get you there. And then the kits or the frameworks like MakerKit is that there's some code in there. There's actually some logic in there that I don't think AI could do. And this is with Watchthis, for example, with both of my projects, with Watchthis and then the second one, which is componentry, which I'm actually now in the process of converting over to MakerKit. Both of those, there is some logic and there's code in there where I've given AI a go at it and it can't do it. So you've got this place where you still need people with some technical ability to be able to get something up and running, because you need a little bit of expertise and a little bit more knowledge that if a problem space is known, it can probably do it. But if you're trying to come up with something novel, something brand new, there's this middle ground where I think that, MakerKit plus a bit of AI gets you a long way, or someone like me who has a bit of coding ability, but it isn't their full-time job.
I found that these tools are really good to generate a prototype or an MVP that you're ready to scrap. Yeah. If you are going to build a product where you're hosting the data from customers or production data, I found it a horrible idea, because even using Cloud Code, for example, which is state of the art right now, it has so many vulnerabilities every time I write something and I don't supervise it, which is something I would never really do. One of the things I'm focusing on right now with MakerKit is how can I add more rules for these AI agents to reduce the possibility of the AI writing security vulnerabilities in the generated code. And that's my biggest worry when using AI and when my customers use AI, because lately MakerKit has attracted a lot of customers who don't really know how to code and they're quite confident about using AI to generate a SaaS. And I'm like, you can, but you need to understand the code, because if you don't, you might be writing something that it's going to be a legal liability, and in general, it's just not something that you want for your SaaS. So yeah, that's something I tell every customer that joins and tells me, hey, I don't know how to code, but I can use AI. It's
Yeah, I think if you've been around tech long enough, you realize that to grow a business and to have some scale, privacy and security need to be there from the very beginning. And that's one of the challenges that you have launching a company. If you step back a little bit, launching a company or launching a startup in the EU is a very different environment as if you're doing it in the US or elsewhere in the world. And if you are not privacy first, once you get a little bit of scale, you're then having to unwind something when you have users, which makes it a lot harder. Whereas if you do that from the beginning and from the ground up, that's the best case scenario. But if those instructions can sit within MakerKit to enable the AI to be able to do it, then absolutely. But I like to believe that, this is, I think, one of the hardest things that actually comes with launching a business, launching a product, launching a platform is your first problem. The first hardest thing is your problem, right? If you can come up with a good problem, you're a long way. The next one is 0 to 1. How do you go from I have nothing to I have something that customers can use, and MakerKit solves that? And then at some point, potentially, people may outgrow it, or they'll need to bring developers or engineers in on top of MakerKit and actually build it properly. That it may go, they may still use AI, but it may get bigger. And I guess that maybe that's a dream for you, is like, how many businesses at scale can you look back in 10 years time and go, we're built on top of MakerKit?
Definitely. In terms of problem discovery, like you watch this page, you are building componentry or migrating to MakerKit. Is this a problem that you had, or how did you validate your idea before building it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people can look around at the world and see ideas and sort of launch it. For me, I tend to fall into that founder category of I see problems around me. I need to be in and amongst those problems. It was a discussion one day with the marketing team and the product marketer. It's like, how do we do this? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I ended up having a beer a couple of days later with my old business partner. And he's like, I'm trying to track this and I'm trying to see my competitors. I'm trying to understand this. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I've had 2 different conversations with 2 different people in different spaces around tech and marketing. I think there's something here. And I built a really quick proof of concept to go, oh yeah, I think this is possible. And then went searching and discovered MakerKit. And I was like, oh, this solves one of the big problems I had when I built a first version of componentry a couple of years ago. So for me, it was around conversations with people and being embedded with them within the marketing and the tech space. The problem for componentry was a little bit easier. I'm a cyclist, road cyclist, gravel, mountain bike. I'm embedded in that space. And there was hey, how do I do this? And, you listen to people around you and you're tapped into that community, and then you're solving a problem in that community. And just happened to be when I looked around, there wasn't a lot of tech. I've discovered it's also quite a hard problem to solve, which is why it's taken me a while. But yeah, just having conversations with people around you. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of YouTube videos floating around about finding SaaS problems or finding problems that you can launch building something with AI. That's kind of the trend at the moment. Unless I know a problem in depth, I struggle to do that. But I know people who have just found problems on the internet and gone, that's really interesting. I'm just going to launch a business on that. That's not how I work, but I know that's a way of doing it as well.
I think solving your own problems is the best way to get started building a SaaS. This has come up in different episodes with other customers that they had a problem, they solved their problem, and chances are if you have a problem, the market hasn't felt the need, then that's the best ideas. And worst case scenario, you solved your own problem. But chances are there are other people with the same need that are going to use your solution. I feel like your company's componentry and Watchthis are fully bootstrapped by yourself with no external funding. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
And one of the hardest things for bootstrappers is outreach, marketing, and finding people. When you're VC funded, you have a network, you have a lot of money to spend on ads and influencers and socials. But if you are a bootstrapper, you don't have any of that. So one question is, how did you find your first users, and what's your marketing strategy without spilling, your secrets? What's your go-to strategy for reaching people online?
There's no secrets anymore.
No secret.
No secrets. Componentry was easy to get the first 20 people on board and actually get it testing and running for me, because I was in and amongst that community, right? And I'm cycling with people. I'm on a bike with them for a couple of hours, so I can bully them into it. Growing that's the next kind of challenge. Watchthis was interesting because, and it's probably more relevant to your question, because that was a space where I know people in tech and I know people in marketing, and that's the product itself, but how to find a bigger audience. The secret for me there for discovery was Reddit. Jump into Reddit and find that problem. And I think that what I did before actually building it on top of MakerKit is, I wrote a single script as a proof of concept and validated that, yes, it was possible. Then the research came. So then I went into Gummy Search. From Gummy Search, I was in Reddit. I was trolling Reddit, I was looking at the conversations, and then I built it on top of MakerKit. So then when it was ready and I had it there and it was open for people to sign up and they could actually use it, I was just leveraging the audience that I had found when I was doing my research to actually validate this as a problem. And I guess the key there is if you try to sell to people in Reddit, you'll get cut down quite quickly. It's not a place that you can go and sell to people. However, what I went to is I went into marketing subs and I was like, hey, does anyone have this problem? Hey, how would I solve this problem? And it was essentially the problem that I was building for, but I was asking people and I was getting feedback. And one of the things that I discovered quite quickly as an example is that I was scanning daily and giving weekly digests. And I still scan daily, but what I discovered from that Reddit research is, and after the fact and actually having those conversations, looking for customers and doing discovery there, is that people wanted monthly and quarterly digests. They didn't want daily and weekly. I started to understand the cadence of the product and had to make that shift. But you get in there and you can start talking to users. So it's about having conversations with people. And then once you discover people, you can bring them on board. Maybe you don't get them to pay to begin with. Maybe you give them free access for 6 months or something. And then they become your champions. And then you try and find 20 of those and you move on to trying to grow it to 100. That's my secret.
Reddit is such a gold mine of information. It's unbelievable and it's kind of unused by a lot of founders that I see. It's used badly and I am one of the ones who used it badly because every time I mention MakerKit or every time a customer actually, who happens quite often, mentions MakerKit, it gets downvoted to oblivion. So one thing
Really?
I would, yes,
Really?
people hate it. Absolutely. Especially in developer communities. It's
interesting.
I don't know why, but it's not me very often. It's customers that are very happy with it and they recommend MakerKit to other people and they always get downvoted. I feel sorry for them, but thankful at the same time. That's why it's no longer my go-to marketing place. I just replied people that maybe are asking a question specifically about MakerKit or if I can help with programming questions, but I stopped actively marketing MakerKit on Reddit because it's been very hard for developer tools and programmers. Programmers are not the easiest people to sell to.
They're very specific about what they like and what they don't like.
Absolutely. Especially, if they say there's now two kinds of developers. There's ones who say AI is going to help me build it in 1 hour, or there's the others who say I'm just going to do it in a weekend. It has tens of thousands of lines of code. It's been in rebuilding it for 3 years. I know for a fact that's not the case, but it's impossible to convince them otherwise. And in a way, senior developers have been the hardest customers to satisfy. Usually it's beginners or people like you, like they're not professional programmers, but they know enough where they can build products that have enjoyed using MakerKit the most. And AI is really helping a ton now because, as I said before, that it made it much easier to use the framework and programming in general to build SaaS products from scratch. Is there any other marketing channel that has helped you, for example, SEO?
A little bit. I saw a report, just a little bit on the SEO stuff. I saw a report the other day that over 70%, I believe, of all internet traffic is now bots and is now AI. It popped up in one of the Slack channels from one of the marketing team. And I've been looking at the traffic that's coming from all of the LLMs, ChatGPT, Gemini, et cetera, and the SEO work that I sort of was doing is now going to pivot a little bit and actually be more focused on discovery for the people actually searching and using LLMs to be able to do discovery on new products. How do I solve this? Hey, if I wanted to do this, how would I do this? Less and less people are Googling things. Don't get me wrong, SEO is probably still going to be important and just building up domain authority is going to be key. But the piece now of making sure that the website and the content you're putting out there can be ingested by the LLMs and actually make that discoverable. And it was going to be an idea for one of my pieces of feedback that I thought I'd drop into Discord in the next couple of weeks, is that like it generates a sitemap, it probably needs to generate the LLMs.txt file as well, where it's actually pushing that content and generating that out. I don't know if that's already in there, but it's something that popped up the other day, is that that's going to be key. So yeah, from my perspective, actually, at this point, building that sort of consumer, like B2C or B2B product is SEO, content, make it ingestible by all of the LLMs, and then a bit of Reddit. I find that a lot of the social media stuff, that requires a lot of effort, whereas the content creation, I think, can come later. It depends if it fits your market, and depends if it fits your product.
Yeah, I mean, MakerKit's traffic from Google 2 years ago was 3 times higher. And now, if you search many of the keywords that MakerKit was ranking for, they're usually answered by Google in the AI overview. Therefore, nobody clicks links anymore. And I know for a fact I don't click links anymore because the AI overview already pretty much gives you the answer, whether it's a programming issue, whether it's a recipe, or something that probably in the past you would have used Wikipedia for. At the same time, if LLMs use indexes like Google and Bing, chances are that if you before ranked in search engines, now you're going to rank in LLM search, which is why my strategy hasn't really changed. I am still going to publish content. I'm still focusing on SEO. People are going to search on ChatGPT instead of Google. So be it. I still hope that my links are going to appear in ChatGPT and other LLMs. And in my experience, that's been the case. MakerKit ranks very high in all the LLMs. I think now probably 10 to 15% of traffic comes from LLMs, which used to be zero this time last year.
I'd be curious to check back in a year's time and see what that number is.
Yes, I think that one difference is that if you sell a product, then Google, I think, it still ranks you similarly. Like it doesn't show any overview because you don't really have a question. However, if you were focusing on content for attracting customers, that's different because Google is just going to give you the answers in the AI overview. Probably one way to work this around is to develop mini tools that Google obviously cannot unless they start generating code on the fly in Google search, which might happen.
Yes.
That's a strategy that might still work. I think for Watchthis page, you might have a few ways to show mini tools about competitor analysis that could bring traffic to your SaaS.
Yeah. Look, I heard an interesting take a couple of weeks ago where the web, or what we perceive as the web, was the way to access the internet, and the internet is just essentially a collection of databases, right? And the way we've got to now is the web, that's how we do it. And if you fast forward, it was interesting that this take is essentially coming from Google, but if you fast forward is, what if the LLMs are the new way of accessing the internet? And really that the way that you publish your website is through an MCP server. So the LLM can just access the data directly through a structured format. You still have to build a website in case people want to access it. But if you build a service or you built an offering where an LLM just needs to access it, why even build a website? I'm curious as to how long it'll take till we actually get to that point. But to your point of actually whether those mini tools is, I know for a fact, I can't remember where they're doing it, but Google is doing something like that where if the data is being returned in a structured format, they're giving you graphs and charts, but because they're like, yes, we can turn this. We understand this structure well enough. We know how to turn it into a pie chart or a table or a graph.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's a new channel that it's going to disappear for a lot of startups. Like I know, for example, Veed.io grew incredibly thanks to their mini tools. And I think there's a lot to learn from you from two perspectives. First, you're head of product of a startup, an established company, which means you know how to market the product, you know what features to build. And from another perspective, you are a non-technical founder who builds SaaS on the side. What is your advice to technical founders that are building their first SaaS? And the problem with technical founders is that they build a lot of features and sometimes they don't validate those features or they build too much. What do you think about it?
Great question. And it's a question that I'm constantly asking myself because I think in the past I've done that. I've just built features. I've built many, many features. And it's over the years I've learned how to build the right features. It's what problem am I solving and who am I solving it for? And I think that if you're a technical founder and you can figure out the problem you're solving and you go, great, I understand the problem. And then you can find the people that you're solving it for. And those people exist. Like it's not a made up person, but if you can actually understand the problem and be able to find those people, then, and you can understand those two things, that it puts you leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else because you're solving a real problem for real people. And that will get you a lot further than just building the next new feature.
I am struggling with this problem right now because I'm building Supermode, the next MakerKit product that is basically going to be a CMS for Supabase. Because Supabase is Studio is great, but it's for developers and it's way too hard to use for searching data or for editing it on the fly. I just find it too hard myself. And I think it's one of the tools that could really help technical and non-technical founders to use Supabase. But it's my initial release and I'm like, what if I build this? And what if I build this? And I kept building for over a month now. And I haven't shipped yet, so I'm still, still struggling with it. But it's a very complex product, so I just really want to make sure it works. But how do you know when you've solved a problem? When do you know you can ship?
It's the constant battle, isn't it? It's the constant battle. What is MVP? What is your bare minimum? What is your minimum viable product? How do you know when you've got that? Because you always look at something and go, oh, well, if I just did this little bit more or just a little bit more there. I think that you're in an incredibly privileged position because I'm in the Discord. I see how many people you have engaging with the Discord. It's like if I was to put myself in the shoes of someone building on top of MakerKit as an example, is that I would do the absolute bare minimum. And then if I had access to those people, I'd be like, great, find those people, cherry pick some people. I do this in my day job at Sked Social, is that we'll design something. And as soon as it's in just prototypes in Figma, we're pulling in a bunch of customers. We'll get at least 10 customers in. We'll walk them through it. We'll validate the idea. Then we'll go away. We'll figure out what to build. We build the bare minimum, and then we get people in for like an alpha or a beta access and get them in testing for a beta access. And then, then we launch. Sometimes our ideation to launching a feature is 6 months to a year, depending on how much time and actually what we're building. With the MakerKit stuff, is like, how do I validate this in a month? How do I validate this in a week or a weekend, for example, and get people in front of it? If I was in your shoes, I'd be taking this idea, finding people inside the Discord, and then getting it in front of them as soon as possible. They don't need to click through it. They don't need to play. They just need to, how do you solve one or two problems for them? Because within that CMS, like eventually that product, that vision you have, you might be solving 10 problems. But if you stack ranked those problems and you've gone, I'm going to solve these 3 or these 2, because I think that these are the top burning problems that these people are having. And you learn that because you've shown people some early designs or you've walked them through and done a screen share with them. These are the top problems. You get those 2 problems in and you get it out there in market, and then you just keep building because then you can validate. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong. I call it bets, right? Every feature you build is a bet. It's either a small bet or a big bet, depending on how much time and effort you're putting into it. But it's like, if you can get something in front of people, not for them necessarily to click around, but you can show them and screen share what you've done and validate what you're doing and the ideas, the sooner the better.
That's great advice, which I'm going to use right away. I wanted to ship on July 1st, but right now I think it's impossible. But what I can do is a webinar. I'm just going to go on Discord and be like, hey, I'm live and I'm going to show the CMS around. 100%. Please tell me 100%. What you think about it. If you hate it, if you love it, how can I improve it? Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to, after the call, I'm going to go on Discord and absolutely do that. Even if I don't ship it, I'm going to gain a lot of insights into what people really think about it. And I got a lot of great comments, both on Twitter and on Discord, of a lot of people who need exactly what I'm building. And I know it's something people need because I need it myself, because my wife basically helps me with discounts, administration, but she cannot do that with Supabase. It's way too hard, and I wouldn't give her access because what if she drops the table and she's not technical.
Yes.
But with the CMS, I can give her just enough permissions to modify maybe one table or one column. That's just going to be way easier.
Yeah. I think that some people don't realize that, in that some of the best products out there were people solving their own problems. Probably not as well known, but there's a platform out there called Amplitude. I was listening to the founder speak the other day when he was here in Sydney. They came out of Y Combinator. They were doing something else, and they were trying to figure out product analytics, and they ended up solving their own product analytics, which ended up becoming now their business, which is enormous. I can't remember. It's over 100 million ARR or something like that. It's a big business. Or is it a billion? It's a lot. It's a big business.
Yes, we used to use it back in 2015. Yeah, startup was working.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
London. And at the time, I think it was one of the most famous analytics startups.
Yeah.
Yes. I think
Yeah.
Slack as well,
And
right? Because they were doing something different. And
Slack,
then they also built a
gaming.
chat for their own company. And they're like, we have something here.
Yes, there's something to be said for actually solving your own problems. And I saw in the MakerKit Discord when I was scrolling through, I think I saw someone who had built 4 or 5 products and then was building something to solve his own problems and ended up releasing it. And now he's got it on Product Hunt. I can't remember the name; it's not in front of me. But yeah, I just saw that. I saw that earlier today.
He recently shipped it. I think this is his
Mm,
seventh product with MakerKit, which is amazing.
yeah.
But I think what he realized is I'm building a lot of products, but I'm not really maybe solving a lot of problems. But this one solves my own
Mm.
problem. That's why I think he's betting on it to be the one. What do you think about this trend of building as many startups as possible and see which one it sticks compared to focusing on one startup and one SaaS and sticking with it for like a year or two and see how it goes?
Such a hard
You can
question.
see both point of views,
Yeah.
right? Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, I mean, here's a good example is that I'm building componentry for the love of it. It's a really interesting problem for me. It's a hard problem. I'm solving it for myself and I'm solving it for the people around me who cycle and they want this. So that's a passion project. Watchthis, for example, that was a problem that I saw in market. Now, I actually think that Watchthis has got a problem because the more AI bots that are floating around the internet, I was looking at some Cloudflare statistics the other day, and the technology is getting better and better. And I can already see this and Watchthis, that every now and then Watchthis is running into issues. And I could double down and Watchthis and I could start using proxies and things like that. I guess my point is that there's going to be internal factors and external factors, whether you pursue something and whether you double down on it and you go, actually, there's a problem I really want to solve here and it is solvable, or is it not gaining enough traction and has it plateaued and am I just missing a feature, or have I not quite got the right audience? Have I not quite got the market right? Essentially, we're talking about product market fit, right? Which is one of the hardest ideas to solve within the software space. And if you don't have product market fit, maybe you move on somewhere else. But I think the beauty of MakerKit and the way I'm approaching it is that every product I build will have a certain number of customers and I want it to be profitable. But let's say Watchthis only ends up having 5,000 customers and it gets to that point and then it plateaus. And once it's in plateaus, then it's sort of in maintenance mode. And then you go, well, okay, then it's time to solve another problem and find another product. And I think that you sort of need to detach yourself a little bit and look at what you're trying to achieve and why you're there. And if it's a passion project, you can spend years. And I will spend years on componentry, and it doesn't matter if I don't have that many customers because it's a passion project. But Watchthis for me is business. It is a business that I want to run and build. So once I see the customers plateau with the marketing that's happening, and it may just grow organically, and you'll see the churn. And as long as it stays static, and then I'll move on to the next one. So I think it's a hard, the product market fit question, and whether you move on or whether you double down is a hard question. And I think there's no black and white. You sort of need to have a look at what you want to do, look at the external factors, and then sort of make a decision. But I think it's okay. It's okay to have an idea, give it a crack. If it doesn't work, shut it down, move on to the next one.
So I feel like one piece of advice to people who don't know what to build is, what are you passionate about? And do
Absolutely.
you have a problem that you can fix? Thinking about it, like 3 years ago, when I built MakerKit, I was doing both. I'm passionate about writing code. I really like writing code, and I really like crafting clean and well structured code. At the same time, I wanted to build a SaaS. I wanted to start having my own projects. And so my problem was, I need a base that I can use every time I want to build a SaaS.
Yep.
And then I like doing it, so why not? And then it turned out that a lot of people had the same problem, even though there were alternatives. I feel like the tech stack resonated a lot with a lot of people. And by solving my own problem about something that I was really passionate about, I found my full-time gig that I'm currently working on every day. And even though sometimes it's a little bit tiring and heavy, I really like helping people, supporting them to build their SaaS. And, every day on this call, I'm like, the first thing I do is checking that everyone is not blocked by a bug or an issue that they cannot solve. And it really helps, because if I was not passionate about this, I would never be able to do it. Never. So yeah.
Absolutely. I look at all of the messages that you respond to with the Discord. Credit to you. You are always online. And anytime I've thrown a question out there, there's always been a response. There's always been a response back from you. And you can kind of, I think you get that passion, right? You can see that passion that you care about what people are building on top of MakerKit. And I think that's it, that if you find a problem that you love, then you're going to put far more time, effort, and energy into solving that.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. If you're working on something and you want to do it for 3-5 years, make sure it's something you like. Otherwise, it's going to be worse than a job, probably.
100%.
And another thing I'm really interested in hearing from you, since you are a non-technical founder, what advice do you have to other non-technical founders who want to build their SaaS and they don't know if, they should hire someone, an agency, a contractor, or should they try to build it themselves using, for example, AI?
Do it yourself. Double down and do it yourself. I was a non-technical founder, and both Watchthis and Componentry I started building while having a full-time job. And Componentry, I was running a software startup at the same time with employees all over the world. So, there was a how do I do this at the same time? And I ended up even then getting a contractor in to do it. The challenge with a contractor is they're never going to be able to see your vision of what you want and be able to sort of make that vision a reality in the way that you want. And I think that with the way AI can assist what you're doing, don't vibe code. Vibe coding is bad. Don't vibe code, but you can leverage AI to be able to guide you through the process of how to actually code. And I think that there's an invaluable skill learned in actually trying to do it yourself. You will learn, there's a certain skill set that you'll pick up and how things actually fit together. Now, if you're really non-technical, you might need to bring someone in, right? So if you're on Discord and you sort of understand a bit of HTML and a bit of CSS, you can get in amongst it. And I would say that try first. Try building it yourself first. And I would say that MakerKit, even from my perspective, being non-technical, like there was a learning curve. There was definitely a learning curve. But once I understood, and because it's neat, it's tidy, it's well structured, right? Once you start to understand and how to build things and fit within the framework and build on top of it, you'd be surprised how quickly you're able to get up to speed on things. So yeah, I guess that my advice for non-technical is like try yourself, and by even trying yourself and going no, then when you go to guide a contractor in, you'll be far better educated on how to communicate what you want.
I totally agree with this. Like, give it a try first. Even if you build an MVP vibe coding and you're ready to throw it away, at least you can try doing it with your vision, and then you give it to an agency or a contractor who know better what to do. But communication is really the hardest thing when hiring an external agency. And I've been on both sides. So it's definitely a problem that I recognize. Now, last question. Has there been a time while building your startup or even at work where you are like, oh no, and what did you learn from it?
What sort of oh no? I've had many oh no's.
It can be anything really. Perhaps something that you thought it was too hard to overcome, but then you did.
Yeah. Look, building Watchthis, I was determined that I was going to build and hand roll the software to take screenshots as well, which when it's on top of a cell is, it's hard. It's hard. The software, like a headless Chrome, uses a large amount of memory, but I was determined to make it work. But there was that moment when I started building it and had it all running locally, and I was like, that's great. And it wasn't until I deployed it do you realize that your local MacBook Pro has a hell of a lot more memory than what you get from Vercel. And there was that little bit of that, oh no moment, have I bitten off more than I can chew here? Has the entire premise and idea of what I have been building towards now not going to be possible? So there was a couple of weeks where I kind of went, oh, I'm not sure if this is possible. Am I going to be able to solve this? I managed it. I did it, but it was definitely have I wasted a couple of months? Within the context for everyone is that I'm working a full-time job leading products. So when I say a couple of months, it's probably a week or two of sort of full-time work because I'm getting my time in where I can. But yeah, that was definitely an oh no moment where I've gone, oh, actually, this might not be possible. And this was the core premise of the product, which was take a screenshot of the changes between people's websites.
Did you use an API to fix this, or did you fix it yourself?
No, I fixed it myself. I was determined to fix it myself.
That is a really hard problem to solve because there are APIs. For example, Screenshot One
Yes.
by Dimitro is a Twitter friend of mine, very popular in the community. And he said to dive into the source code of the browser engines, V8, I guess, to solve some problems that he had for his customers. So this is a really, really hard problem to fix.
Yeah, it is. I probably can't even tell you how I solved it because I've sort of fallen out of my brain. But I know with that code, I wrote some really good documentation because I knew if I ever came back to it, I'd need to pull apart why it was doing what it was doing. But it was having to find sort of headless browsers that could run and had been stripped back to be able to run sort of in a serverless environment. Yeah, it was challenging, but that was part of the joy of what I wanted to do. I guess I'm doing this because I like solving problems, and it was a problem that I wanted to figure out how to do. So I was determined. But I think if I'd run up against it and it couldn't be done, and I would have pulled the pin and gone, I'll pay for something else and just turn it into an API for sure.
Yeah, I think worst case scenario, you can use an API like Screenshot One and probably increase prices, but
pick your battles.
It's not the end of the world. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining the interview. I had a lot of fun and there was a lot of learning from you. And one of the things that I learned from you, I'm just going to go and do it right now. So thank you so much. It's been really great.
It's been an absolute pleasure chatting, speaking to you for the first time like this. I now see in you the passion and the vision inside MakerKit and inside the Discord that I see. It now makes perfect sense. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye-bye.